TikTok's up top. We got Instagram going live. We got YouTube going live. We got Facebook lives. We got all the lives happening right now. So I am super stoked. If you haven't seen the new wall that's been built, I love design. I love making spaces beautiful, and clearly like what's going on behind me is incredible. And so what I wanted to do as a gift for the new wall and all the hard work that went into it, I wanted to give you guys a gift today. And that gift is I'm going to teach you guys straight up out of our playbooks that we typically don't share with anybody except for private clients, how to actually book and close listings. Actually, I'm not going to teach you how to book listings. I'm going to teach you how to close listings when it comes to pricing, right? And what we found is that, you know, I've sold like a couple $100 million worth of real estate. I've been inside of the presentation. I've been inside of the boiler room. I felt what it's felt like to have a seller, right, basically come in and crush your soul when you want to talk about pricing. And I know what that feeling is like. I know the pit in your stomach that you get when that seller is like, well, let me tell you what my house is worth. And you're like, right. And when you listen to the stage gurus, like the people who have never sold real estate before, like, don't get me wrong, there's some smart things that come off of stages. But when you listen to people who have never sold real estate before, the problem is that like a lot of it sounds good from stage and it's very sellable. The problem is that it doesn't get you deals. So I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to open up the playbook here. Let's see if the screen goes. Oh, the screen's not shifting. What's going on here? All right, let me open some Stream Deck here and let's get into this. So again, this is straight up right out of our playbook. Oh Lord, what has happened? And I want you to win, right? Like I want you to win at the highest of levels, because real estate doesn't have to be as hard as it is. It is hard, but it doesn't have to be as hard. And so there's something that we've created. There's something that we created, and let me just share it with you here. So it's called the 3 price strategy, right? It's called the 3 prices strategies, right? But you got to have a way to talk about it, right? And the way we talk about it is like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it's my job to protect your equity and maximize your next proceeds. And this is why pricing is about positioning and the list price is just an invitation. Now, most agents, they say something crazy like, I can get you more money than anybody else in the marketplace can. I can maximize your profits. I can maximize this, right? And truly, we can't, right? Now, there's certain things that we can do that are slightly better than other people. But at the end of the day, what dictates pricing? At the end of the day, what dictates pricing? Is it you and your fancy words, or is it the market, right? It's the market. The market's going to, if you list a house for $1 million and it's off by a couple percentage point, the house is still going to sell. But if you're off by 10%, it's not us. It's the market. The market dictates the market. And so we have to have a way to have a conversation of that. And so what most agents do is they say, well, let me go over a CMA. That's the old way of doing it. You don't want to do that. Before we talk, right, about pricing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we talk, write this down, please write this down. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we talk about pricing, we need to talk about the price strategy and the market dynamics, because it's not us that creates the price, it's the market dynamics and it's your goal. So is it cool if we talk about market strategies and dynamics first? Yes. And then you go, we're going to assign a list price for a lot of reasons, but most of them are based off of the goals of you, the client, the market dynamics, and your overall timeline. So before we talk about pricing, we must first discuss pricing strategy, right? Because what the average agent will do is just come in here and talk about the comps or the market, but that doesn't take into account your goals. And it doesn't give you a full understanding of the strategies that you have available as a potential seller. If you guys are on TikTok, you should go follow me on YouTube. It's my name. Go follow me on YouTube and you can actually see the whole script, right? If you want the script, you can join me inside of one of our private communities and you'll get this whole script that's built out. It's better than anything else out there. So if you're on TikTok and you want to see like, oh my God, what are they seeing? Go follow me on Instagram. It's my name, Vikram, Coach Vikram Dealer on YouTube. So broadly speaking, there's 3 list price strategies and each of them drive a different buyer psychology. So is it cool if I walk you through those three pricing strategies? Yes, we're asking them to be engaged in the conversation. The first one is what we call aspirational pricing, right? And this is just a traditional strategy when the list price, right, is higher than the relevant properties, leaving room for negotiation. And now we're going to explain what this means, right? We're going to explain what this means. And then we're going to say, and the last thing we say after the explanation is, this is for people who are looking to test the market. Why do we do that? Because most sellers aren't testing markets. Most sellers are doing what? They're trying to get their home sold for what? To get to somewhere else. So when we understand that, now we have that conversation. You got to tie it all up with the bow. So does any of these apply in your present situation? Do any of these apply in your present situation? Well, no, they don't. Oh, okay. So now we've kind of got rid of aspirational pricing. But here's a number one concern when you talk about aspirational pricing is what? The concern that you have to be prepared for is, I don't want to leave money on the table, right? So we're not going to get into that today, but we get into that into our advanced training. Number two is what we call perceived market value pricing. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Bob, Sally, I'm going to call them by their first name, right? Bob, Sally, when you price the line in line with like the relevant comparables, especially in line with those that are currently under contract, we call that perceived market value. Because there's no such thing really as fair market value, because fair market value is only established when the buyer and the seller come together and they agree upon the price and the terms, right? And they're going to go like, well, I've never thought of that. And all the agents we talked to said, we should price near fair market value. Oh, really? That's what they said? I mean, that's crazy, because fair market value is it's only established when a buyer and seller make a payment, right? We know the price of eggs, $43,000 per dozen. We know the price of eggs because that transaction is happening over and over and over again. So we know what the fair market value of eggs are, but we don't know the fair market value of a house, because a house is a pretty specific things. But we have an idea, like what we say, when you price it in line with relevant comparables, right? You see how we're not even in price yet? Like we've already educated them more than most agents will ever educate themselves. The third, right? This is where a seller prices a little below relevant properties because they want to stand out. They want to create an auction-like environment to create offers and momentums where we can win with the negotiation advantage as opposed to a pricing disadvantage. We call this event-based pricing. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask what's called a tie-down question. What questions do you have around these strategies? And what do you think they're going to say? They're going to say, well, we want the highest price, Vikram, and we want to have an advantage. We want to stand out because, you know, the market's competitive. So we want to stand out. They're going to scratch their head, but we don't want to leave money on the table. And now you have something here, and watch this, because like I just build things based off of how people think. Like I'm not super smart, but like when you look at it, so, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the opinions of price are at best an estimate of a broker's price, right? Or broker's price opinion. So based on your current situation, which one feels like where you are, right? We're just answering their questions with a question, right? So they told us their concerns. Okay, well, you know, I get that. Like you want to do all this stuff. You can probe and clarify. Like if you're an advanced student of mine, you'll probe and clarify a little bit more about what they mean. But for you guys right here, this is basic. This is new to you. Right? Like you've probably never even asked questions like this. I don't want you to get too deep in the weeds because like, I just want you to follow the script. So, okay, cool. So they like, okay, so you don't want to leave. Let me do this. Let me keep going. And I think I'm going to answer your questions. Is that cool if I do that? And they're going to go, of course, because you've already blown their minds. So based on your current situation, which one do you feel like is more of like where you are now? And they're going to go, well, we don't want to leave money on the table, but we probably are somewhere in between number 2 and number 3, right? Event-based pricing and perceived market value. So we don't need to tie them down, but we just want to get rid of aspirational. Yeah, we're not testing the market. Okay. But we don't want to leave money on the table, but we also want to have that competitive advantage. Okay. So we're somewhere between 2 and 3. Yes. Awesome. So now we're going to show, right? Now it's what I call show and tell time. Okay, so this is where I bring the 3 pricing strategies to life. And you do this, right? You got to be smart with this, right? You got to show them and demonstrate, right, with your data that you've pulled from your MLS, that by pricing high, you actually stay on the market longer. You have a lower price per square foot, and it's a lot more stressful. But how do you do that, Vikram? Super simple. So here is when you're going to say, well, let's do this. Like, let's not pick a strategy yet. Let me show you something. And they're going to go, oh, okay, show and then tell. Now you pull out a CMA that's got 3 different CMAs. One is for an aspirationally priced home. One is for a perceived market value home. And one is for what? Event-based pricing. And you're going to show them the list. And you're going to say, on average, in our market, it takes about 17 days for a home to sell. And homes in this general area are selling for about $250 a square foot or $500 a square foot. And they're going to go, okay, so we've laid out the parameters. It takes 17 days on average, and the average home is at $500 a square foot. By the way, on average in this market, from the data we collected, we looked at 7 homes that sold in the last 90 days. The average sale to list price was 98%. Oh, okay. So now we're educating them on the market. Why would we do that, Vikram? Shouldn't we be talking about price? Not yet. Not yet. We're not there yet. What we need to do is we need to now educate them on what? The pricing strategies we laid out. So why don't we do this, right? Why don't we do this? Like, let's talk about these strategies. Okay, let's talk about these strategies. So for those of you who are new, right, aspirational, perceived market value, and event-based pricing. So we're going to bring it to life here by showing them the 3 different scenarios. And I'm going to turn them around and put them in front of them. I'm going to say, so this property was listed at $100,000 or $1 million or 500,000, whatever it is in the price range of where you're at, sat on the market for 37 days, and it sold for 92% of list price to sale price. And it had a average sale per square foot, price per square foot of $479. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, right? This property was on the market for 14 days and it sold at $498 a square foot. And number 3, this property was on the market for 4 days and it sold for $503 a square foot. Which one is which? And they're going to go, oh, well, this one's event-based pricing, this one's aspirationally priced, and this one's perceived market value. Exactly. And what do you see from this data? They're telling you versus you telling them. When they tell you it's real, when you tell them, you're just a salesperson trying to get a cheap price. If you're not driving, drop me a comment of like, this is great. Holy cow, why has nobody ever taught me this? If you're watching the replay, please drop me a comment like, holy cow, why has nobody ever taught me this? Or like, duh, Vic, everybody does this. Just drop me a comment, let me know. So now you say, well, which strategy are you leaning towards based off of the data? Which strategy are you leaning towards? Well, I mean, it's kind of scary, but I think we're leaning more towards, what do you think, honey? And he's going to look at her. She's going to look at him. She's going to look at her. She's going to look at him. I think we're leaning more towards maybe going like a little bit under what the perceived market value is. Like, we don't want to go too low, but we definitely want to stand out. Cause I mean, this house sold in 7 days for 3, 4, 5% more than the other houses. Yeah. Well, God, nobody ever explained that to us in our life. The other 3 agents didn't explain that to us. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Like, I mean, most average agents don't know how to do like a dynamic strategy session with when it comes to selling a home. They just kind of list it at whatever price you want to list it at, right? And they're like, yeah, that's what they said. What do you want? Yeah, like I don't want to know what your guys' thoughts are on pricing. I want to know what the market says. I just need to know your strategy that you want to pick. But let's do this. Let's talk about market dynamics. And inside of market dynamics, it's like, would you like me to break down how to interpret the market data? They're going to be like, yes, right? And so the market's a relationship between active pendings and sold. If you have a lot of homes but low pendings, it means you're in a buyer market. If you have a lot of pendings compared to active, it means your neighborhood is in demand. You're in a seller's market. If you see high active, low pendings, and high solds, right? that means we miss the momentum and we probably have to adjust the price to drive demand back up. We're educating them, right? We're educating them because let's say they do go and they choose this crazy price strategy. They're like, well, we still want to go with this higher price strategy. They still want to go aspirational. Let's say they do that, which it happens, right? Like it happens. The market dynamic conversation, right? If you're seeing high actives, low pendings, and high solds, it means we missed the market and we should have a conversation to adjust price based off of demand. Now, if you do take an overpriced listing, what happens? Well, when you have to have the conversation with them, right? Do me a favor. If this is resonating, can I get a yes in the chat? If this is resonating, my TikTok friends, if you're watching, we are live on Instagram and we're live on YouTube. If you want to see the scripting, just Coach Vikram Deol. If you guys want to join me in our private community where I go way deeper in this, and like, this is why our clients are closing 60, 70, 80, 90% of the listings they go on, right? They don't have to get more listing appointments, which they are because they're learning how to use the ultimate appointment booking formula, but they're also closing more, right? Significantly more. And like the markets are still slow. Like even though the market's picking up, there's still less sales happening. So like we don't get as many opportunities at bat. So like I don't want to lose any of those opportunities personally. So if you want to join us inside the private community, just message me, Triz, TRIS, and me or my team will respond to you after this. Pricing is directly related to what's happening globally, but most importantly, locally. Your local market dynamics dramatically influence the price of your property because real estate works in micro markets. Like you got to use your hands, y'all. Like when you present, you got to practice like using your hands. You got to practice with your body, your language, your tonality, right? You got to practice all this or it doesn't work, right? That's what we do a lot of inside of our private communities. So we start with the macro considerations such as like the median price, the velocity, like what's velocity? Like some of you are thinking right now, what's velocity mean? I get it. How fast homes are selling. And then listing supply to demand. And then we drill down. So market dynamics are constantly changing. So we're going to choose the most relevant comparables, what we call, you've probably heard another agent call it a comp, right? Sometimes you're like, what's that even mean? We're just making the other agents look dumb right now without making them look dumb. We don't need to say we're number one. We show them we're number one. We don't need to talk about our stats. We show them that we're highly educated. We show them that we're better. If you're a brand new agent, you walk in with this presentation on price and market dynamics, you're going to blow the shit out of everybody. Okay. As experts in the area, we have seen and followed the sales activity carefully and apply the nuances to our comparable market analysis. We got to spell it out for them, you guys. You can't just walk in and be like, hey, we're doing a CMA. It's like a doctor walking in and be like, hey, your blah, 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 doesn't work. They're like, oh, okay, well, what do you think? Right? We don't want to make them feel dumb because we're using industry language. We want to make them feel empowered and smart to make the right decision, not dumb. And what happens when we use industry language, because we use it in our office with our friends so much, we don't realize that we're making them feel dumb. Because don't you walk into the doctor's office and automatically feel a little bit dumb? And my dad's a doctor. When him and my brother talk, I'm like, hey, guys, English, please, for the third grader over here. Right? Because I feel dumb. And I'm like, I have an MBA. Like, I don't know what you guys said. I'm like, what? I don't even know. I don't even know how to spell that word. I don't even know what the first letter would start with, right? Like, it's crazy. And so now we say, assume you get the price you want. Assume we get the offers, the terms that you want, the price we're going to do what is this. We're going to do what we call accept the property contract and go accept the offer and go under contract. Now is where you stop and bring out the CMA. Okay, any questions around market dynamics? And they're going to go, yes. You stop and you answer their questions. Because if they have questions before you go into a CMA and you go into a CMA, what are they going to think? Oh, she just wants a lower price. The reason why we take overpriced listings is because we don't want to have conversations about market dynamics. We don't want to have conversations around listing price strategies because nobody ever taught you. It's not your fault. It is your problem though, because if I walk in and I do a presentation, I'm going to smoke you guys, right? Because like, I want to spend the time with the prospect to make sure that they understand that they're in my process and they're going to do what I want them to do, not I'm going to do what they want them to do. I'm not desperate for their business. So many agents walk in desperate because they don't want to spend a few weeks, spend a couple of dollars to learn the process. right? Like this is why we sold $250 million in 5 years and we were doing 90% closings, right? We had 90% win rates on expired listings in Bellevue, Washington, which was one of the most competitive. It still is one of the most competitive. And it wasn't like low priced homes for the market. These were $2, $3, $4 million properties. Because when you walk in and you show the seller that your process is better than everybody else's, what do? They're like, oh my God, this was so much better. We want to work with you. So instead of me chasing them, they were calling me back after the presentation. Hey, Vic, what's the next step? So now you bring out your CMA and you talk about price. If you do this, if you just learn this, like this isn't the 10 other steps in the process. If you just do this, you will add more listings to your book of business this year off of the same amount of listing appointments you go on. All right. So if you want to learn more about what we're doing inside the Trust Rapport Influence Sales Method, or if you just really love the background, because you guys, I just built this wall, put the flowers up, put the plants up. These are all real. Or is it not sick? Can I get a one in the chat if this is a sick background? It's refurbished old wood that they took from a barn. They ripped the barn down, the interior of the barn. This is all the old reclaimed wood. And then these are all real plants that I went and picked out. This is like, these are real right here. Like if that's not sick, please like tell me that I'm crazy. Cause like, I love this fucking office, which is why I just gave you how to talk about pricing before you talk about price, right? Before we can talk about price, we need to talk about pricing. We need to talk about market dynamics. We need to talk about strategies. We need to talk about your goals and your timelines, right? So if this was something that you found to be absolute fire, which you'd be crazy if you said no, unless you're one of my clients. And then I understand you're like, no, Vic, I've been watching you teach me this for the last 6 months. Friggin' love it. Do me a favor, put a comment below. Let me know that this was something that you appreciate. I'll create more content like this. And I want to see you win in this market because there's no reason why you shouldn't be a top agent. It's just the things that nobody taught you, right? It's not your fault. It is your problem. As my coach, Jeremy, says, it's not your fault. It is your problem. It is costing you money. It is costing you time. It is costing you deals. It is costing you opportunities. And look, when the average agent's closing less than 5 or 6 deals a year, I don't think most people have that opportunity, that time, that desire to keep losing those opportunities. So I appreciate you. May the force be with you and may you manifest your dreams. I'll see you later.